All right, it is Monday, March 7th. I would like to call this school committee business meeting to order. Mrs. Kennedy, can you take the roll, please?
Mayor Reardon.
Here.
Ms. Hall.
Here.
Ms. Walker.
Present.
Mr. Callahan.
Here.
Ms. Spalding.
Here.
Mr. Mennon.
Here.
Mr. Cole.
Here.
All present.
All right, can we rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I would like to turn it over to Vice Chair Hall.
Good evening, everyone. Do we have any public comment tonight? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to our consent agenda, beginning with the warrants. Mr. Callahan, are you ready to?
I am ready.
Okay, great.
We have several warrants amounting in the aggregate of $18,369.66. So I move that the following named bills of the Newburyport Public Schools amounting in the aggregate $18,369.66 be approved and forwarded to the city auditor for payments. There are no conflicts.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And I've got one more. I move that the following named bills of the Newburyport Public Schools amounting in the aggregate of $405,235.33 be approved and forwarded to the city auditor for payment. There are no conflicts.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
That's it?
All right. Okay, we've got 3 sets of minutes to go through this evening. We'll start with the February 1st retreat minutes. Any corrections? Okay, I have one, Mrs. Kennedy. It's on page 2. It's a comment by Juliet Walker. It says, it's just a typo, I believe. It says replay all when it should say reply all. Okay, anything else for retreat minutes? Okay, any corrections from February 7th business meeting? Minutes. Could I get a motion to approve those 2 sets of minutes? We're going to take the third one separate.
So moved.
Second. Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so the last set is was our remote meeting on February 18th. Just taking that separately because Mr. Callahan was not present and can't vote to approve. Were there any corrections to those minutes? And a motion to approve those minutes? So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
Okay, we're ready for the NHS student representative report. Thank you.
All right, so the high school would like to commend Mia Rodriguez, Priya Carr, Olivia Rivera, and Adela Daigle on their presentations at the Environmental Stewardship Open House before vacation. This event connected our students with projects happening around the city and local communities. A big thank you to Mayor Sean Reardon's office and the Alliance of Climate and Environmental Stewards for making this happen. There was an article in the Daily News summarizing the event, and an editorial was written by Adela about the open house. Sasha Layden has been appointed to the Northeast Teen Advisory Board for the Bring Change to Mind organization.
And so for sports, girls basketball, who is 19-2, they won the Gears tournament over February vacation. They won the first round playoff game over Shepherd Hill on Saturday, and they play at Whitman-Hanson on Tuesday in the next round. Boys hockey, who is 12-7-2, won the Newburyport Bank tournament over February vacation. They won the first round playoff game over Wilmington on Friday, and then they play at Norwood on Tuesday in the next round. Boys track, who is 4-0, are the Division IV state championships. Cal champions, indoor relay champions, and TJ Carleo finished fourth in the New England set school record in the 1,000 meter. Boys basketball, who was 14-8, won the Cal champions, and they won the first round playoff game over Marblehead, and they lost to Leominster in the second round of the playoffs. Girls hockey, who was 10-9-2, lost to Acton Boxborough in the first round of playoffs. Girls ski, Grace Chandler won 2 medals in the state alpine ski championships. And then in swim, Austin Hires set a new school record in the 200 free with 9th place finish in the states.
Great. Thank you.
Wonderful, lots going on.
Yeah.
Okay, Superintendent, whenever you're ready.
All right, thank you very much. All right, thank you. There's no commercial break right now, right?
No, we're live.
Oh, okay. Say hi to everyone at home.
You could start saying hello individually to them if you'd like to buy a little time.
Well, I think as the projector is warming up, this is really going to tie in nicely, I think, to Mr. Wolf and Mr. Smith's presentation on the work they're doing at the high school, tying in the portrait of a graduate, but also tying in college and career readiness and a lot of the work that's been going on. Yep. Let's try this. There we go. It's always good when you see the blue light. So the portrait of a graduate work that we've been doing throughout the year. So this is kind of an update because as you recall, we did present to school committee a few meetings ago regarding the work, but we also went around the district to give the teachers and the administrators another opportunity for iterations, input as we continue to move forward with the strategic planning. So as you all know, from the beginning, we're talking about building a shared vision and utilizing Amy Webb's Future of Today Institute and how successful organizations and businesses really have the ability to adapt to current events that happen to a lot of organizations. So as we worked on building this vision, so the vision for us was the portrait of a graduate, and as we've said many times, the entire community gave us input on what that vision's going to be for all students as they go through Newburyport Public Schools. So we began this process working at the high school, and if you recall my entry plan, we asked a lot of those questions to a lot of the parents and student groups. You know, what are the skill sets, the mindsets that you're going to need to be successful? So we kind of broke that down, and with some input from the teachers, it's really tying in the vision of a graduate and these areas of success. So your academic skills, employment skills, civic engagement, financial skills, life skills, technology, social emotional learning, and communications. And what's really great is over 700 people participated in this vision. In all of these different elements were touched upon really exclusively. So we really feel like we have a nice blueprint as we move forward. As I said, and you all know this, over 700 students and staff and parents, city officials really joined us in developing this vision and developed that district-wide portrait of a graduate. So we looked at trends, if you all recall, in those focus groups. So some of the current trends that are happening in the world, economic trends, technology trends, demographic, and environmental trends. Our focus groups were asked to identify the skills, the mindsets, and the knowledge they felt that our students would need to be successful after they graduate. And the community shared hundreds of comments and ideas, and then when we compiled everything, we were looking at thousands. So what follows is a summary of this work. The comments and skills and ideas, as you recall, we grouped those into skills, knowledge, and mindsets, and then we developed different categories. So this is what ended up coming out of it. The first was our skills category. So a lot of the comments, individual comments, we could break down into a lot of these different areas. So creativity and collaboration and problem solving was very, very important for our community. Life skills, financial literacy, reading, writing, speaking, thinking critically, communicating, researching, technology skills, and then obviously civic engagement skills. And that really, I think, reflects on some of the political discourse that's happening in our society today, and really working with this generation as they move up and graduate upon the world. This generation hopefully will continue with some, as we like to say, constructive dialogue to problem solve, instead of having a lot of the discourse that I think we're used to. So we're really hopeful for that. But that was glaring in a lot of the comments for over the 700 people. These were the focus areas on the skills categories. The other piece that was really important for our community is mindset categories. So these are the categories about being empathetic, growth mindset, resilience, being able to self-advocate, open mind for new ideas, strong work ethic, creative and innovative, community-oriented, wellness, taking care of yourself, and just really students to be passionate about something and overall happy. The knowledge category, these came back. Personal finance, I think, was throughout, and making sure our students, when they graduate, that they have the literacy, the financial literacy skills to be self-independent. Social science, global understanding, STEM, info for data analysis, really having our students workforce ready, health and wellness, environmental science, media literacy, and executive functioning. So all of these were some bigger categories that really was the theme, working with our focus groups. So within each category, comments were reviewed. So it wasn't, we have every single comment that was on the Post-its, and I want to thank Lisa Furlong, Tom Abrams, Central Office, for really going through every single comment that was left on a Post-it and really categorizing them and organizing them. So you can see, when we talk about empathy, you can see all of the different feedback that we received, and you can see how all of those different comments really tie back to the overarching theme of empathy. And the same with resiliency, collaboration. So we have all of those individual Post-its, and then you can see when we saw a lot of the same type of comments, then we could categorize them, as we did. So a sample of the comments, so it wasn't just one word. We had a lot of great feedback and insight. So one comment that we just sharing for this presentation is global learners. Graduates should be able to speak at least 2 languages. And you're looking at the global economy and why it's so important for our students to really understand not only the United States, but also other countries and other cultures, because they're graduating into this global economy. Another piece that we got feedback, this is another great comment, was civic engagement, understanding data on different gun violence, political barriers, reducing violence, having the power to create change, be an agent of change, having the knowledge so they can participate in decision-making in a democracy. And I think that goes all the way back to that constructive dialogue and all of the work that we've been doing with essential partners. So you can have opposite views, 100%, but the focus is, as we always say, hard on the problem and soft on the people. And just really passionate and really appreciative of all the feedback that we receive by all of the stakeholders. Workforce ready, science, technology, and engineering. I won't read you all of those, but these were all the comments and very thoughtful comments from people who participated in our focus groups. Diversity, equity, inclusion, and this was also some big themes coming out. There are others that think, believe, look, and act differently. These differences should be embraced. We need the ability to question assumptions. Health and wellness, talking about addiction and mental illness, talking about mindfulness and how to reduce stress, how to say no, and lifelong learners. Teachers are not the ultimate source of knowledge. And then from students, some feedback was choose your teacher wisely, which was pretty good. Comments made also for common ideas across skills, mindsets. So this is how we end up developing, and you've seen this slide before, really the bigger base categories. Develop physical, social, emotional wellness skills for students, become literate across all disciplines, practice creation, innovation, collaboration, engage civically, and prepare for life after graduation. So working with our faculty, we kind of define this a little bit more in utilizing a lot of the feedback. So when we talk about physical, social, emotional wellness skills, the ability to self-advocate, embrace growth mindset, positive attitude, empathetic, accepting, resiliency, perseverance, passionate, happy, having the ability to adapt and be flexible. And I'll tell you, the last 2 years, our students and families have lived this, I think, on a weekly basis with the pandemic, and socially, physically, and emotionally be healthy. So when we look at the broad base of become literate across all disciplines, be a passionate reader, writer, speaker, and listener, strong multimedia communicator, engage students in literature, mathematics, science, social studies, languages, and the arts, and then make sure they're leaving us with curiosity and a critical scholar. Practice creation, innovation, collaboration, problem solving. Creator and innovator, problem solver, collaborator, critical thinker, and effective researcher. And what's really great about a lot of these traits, and when you look at the business world today and what they're looking for employees, it's a lot of the same traits that we're talking about. And then the last piece is engage civically. Community-oriented, strong understanding of civics and how American government works, aware and connected of our global world at the same time, and then be environmentally engaged. And last but not least, what does prepare for life after graduation? Making sure our students are lifelong learners, they're motivated, setting goals, able to independently navigate the world to meet those goals, and then strong work ethic and healthy work-life balance. What I really love about this is as we develop, as you remember, the tactical aspect of our strategic plan is the work that the teachers, administrators are going to do. We can take a lot of these attributes at every single grade level, and they're gonna look a little bit different. So a first grader can motivate to set goals. Well, a first grader's goals could probably look a lot different than a senior's goals. But teachers and educators from first grade to high school to middle school can be in a room and have a discussion on what that's gonna look like. And it brings everyone together with a certain focus. So we're still working on this, and we're looking for a slogan. So these were some of for every focus group, we kind of challenged our focus groups, and still within our school community, we're looking for that slogan to really put a stamp on this. So we do have, some people have been sending more in. Sail away, the clip away, that struck out to me, but my central office team said no, so I guess I got voted off the island on that right away. But this is something, what we really want is a slogan that really ties into the work that separates Newburyport community in our uniqueness, and that people can really rally around. And then just going back, just for an overview, so our planning for the future, as we were talking about, so we spent a lot of time on Portrait of a Graduate, but also remember that we did the 7 strategies. So we already have the 7 strategies, so part of our plan was we're gonna be developing new action steps, but the overarching strategies we felt were pretty concrete with those 7. And then the last piece that we're working with the faculty is the continuous tactical cycles. So once we have our strategic plan, this is what's kind of exciting, is every year from the district goals to the school improvement plans, to the administrative goals, to the educator goals. The whole idea is for us to be, all of us as educators, to be focused on those goals for each year. So you're technically, you're not resetting the whole strategic plan, but what you are resetting each year, working together, is the tactics and the strategies that we're gonna accomplish for that year. So I think it just brings everyone together and has everyone focused and moving in the same direction from every single school, from every single educator, along with the district goals. It all ties in nicely. And then that's what we were talking about. That part of our strategic planning is to kind of review the 5-year plan that just passed, highlight accomplishments, and then also pull out some of those items that we still need to continue with. At the same time, moving the district forward. And then our next steps, so a final strategic planning report, and then a community rollout. So right now we did our sessions with the faculty. Central office, along with Lisa Maria Polito, will be setting up various committees at each grade level, made up of teachers and administrators, to develop the action steps. And then, obviously, utilizing the input from, the community. So we're kind of excited about that. And that's kind of where we're at right now. So, any questions on this part? Yes.
Well, do you have a timeline for when you're expecting to release the final strategic plan report?
Yeah, we're hoping hopefully by the end of this school year, or at least be, I think far along. We may need to set up some, groups of educators in the summer to continue the work. But this is, I think, really a great start, and just really, I can't just say enough. I think we were trying to be so, from traditional to the way we worked on this strategic plan is to try to be as inclusive as possible, and I really believe we've received a lot of great feedback in the sense that from the students to the staff to the community members, we're all kind of thinking the same way, which is really exciting, so. All right, awesome. So at this time, I'd like to call Mr. Smith and Mr. Wolf. They're going to be really talking about the work that we've done, and I just want to thank Mr. Smith and Mr. Wolf. So as you all know, as part of our budget last year, we really were focused on hiring a college and career readiness counselor. And someone that could assist us with this, I think a few things that we're all really would like to have all of our high school students, by the time they graduate, is to experience either an AP or a college level course, and then have real world job experience before they leave Newburyport High School. And I just want to credit the duo here, because I think they've expedited a lot of that work. So it's not like we had Mr. Smith come on and then all of a sudden, we took a year of planning. I think right away, he's been really focusing on our vision, and you're doing some great work. And we really want to share that with the school committee and the general public on some of the work you guys are doing. So there you go. Is your little clicker?
Well, believe it or not, I'm going to be very quick because this is really Mr. Smith's presentation, but just kind of back to where we were last week with the budget presentation. A big part from last year's budget was really bringing on Mr. Smith's position and really working to build our college and career resource center, which he has just gone above and beyond to really move us faster than I ever envisioned, but is really right in line with not only just our school improvement efforts, but everything that you just saw Mr. Gallagher just present to you with our portrait of a graduate. So without further ado, Mr. Smith.
All right, how's it going, guys? I feel like there's a lot of hype right now, so I'm gonna live up to that. So Aaron Smith college and career counselor. I'm very excited to be here. I've done this presentation before, and I promised that tonight I was going to keep it to about 10 minutes, so I'm going to do my very best. I'm very passionate about this work, as Mr. Wolf will tell you, and I could talk all night. So I promise I'll keep it as brief as I can. So again, our school improvement goals, we want all students to be able to demonstrate college and career readiness skills upon graduation. I know we just talked about that, right? Again, me coming in, making sure that every student is the opportunity to participate, internships, job shadowing, whatever it might be, we're gonna help them through that process, and you'll hear in a little bit how we're doing that. And we want all students to leave with a personalized and flexible post-secondary plan. So these are some of the ways that we're doing that. So we have the internship program. I took over this year. First semester, 81 students. Second semester, we have 87 right now. We had an awesome breakfast in December. Some of you might have come, and it had 41 of our community partners come. And then right now, we have 80 community partners currently in our database that we're working with. So we did really well getting some people in that we haven't had placements before, and some that we already did. And now we're back. They hadn't had someone for a couple of years, so we're excited to work with them again. And I'll be getting out, as I did in the fall, again in the spring, to just get out there and literally just walk into businesses and introduce myself and talk about what we're doing and the opportunities for some of those placements. I teach a college and career readiness course currently, mostly freshmen, a few sophomores, and a few juniors and seniors sprinkled in as well too, but mainly for the freshmen. So one of the things in doing this course that I kind of brought with me from where I was before is for next fall, we're going to actually change the course from right now I teach a couple blocks a day. We're going to move it into the Clipper block, which will happen on day ones for all freshmen. And they will get a 1-credit course from Middlesex Community College. And again, it will be embedded right into their Clipper block. I'll show up to Clipper block and be teaching it with the teachers in there. So very excited about that. Again, going back to part of the plan is to having every student have those credits and dual enrollment and what's now called early college. So excited to be able to bring that. And what I was already doing in that class, it's not really a heavy lift to change it with the curriculum. I've worked with Middlesex in the past for many years, so they're already on board. They're super psyched to have Newburyport on board with them as well too, and to add another partner for our dual enrollment programs as well. So college visits this year in September, we had 98 different colleges come, online and in person as well, 103 individual students with 295 different times that they came down, which was interesting. I definitely had a few that were there quite a bit, but they had a time during that time frame where it was lunch and they were able to come down. So compared to past, we definitely are beefing that up a lot, and it's very great information for the students to see and also hear from the college reps who are most likely reading their application. So they're making those connections as well too, which is really nice. On-the-spot admissions day, this was something, again, that I brought to this year from that I'd done in the past. This year we had 4 colleges. I'm hoping to have 8 for next year. We had a 100% rate. Every student who applied to all 4 of these colleges through this program was admitted on those days. So to kind of give you what this is, it is what it says, on the spot. Literally, that day the student came down and heard from the representatives from each one of these colleges or universities that they were admitted. Right in front of them, one-on-one meetings. I was kind of a fly on the wall, which was awesome for me. And I actually had like a little presentation I had up on the wall, so I was waiting because I knew they were all accepted ahead of time. And so once they did, I hit a button and it exploded stuff on the screen, and did a couple of songs and things for them too. So we really made it kind of a cool event, and that's why I'm hoping to have some more, schools next year. And then, when you start doing things like this, people start talking. The kids will talk as well. So we'll be able to add some more on there, and maybe have 15 to 20 accepts at some of these places moving forward, which would be exciting. Our college fair we had in the fall as well too. We had 46 different colleges come, over 140 different students. It was a great night. I was actually most impressed by our community partners who really helped me out, because again, I'm new and I was trying to do things with not a lot of funding, and they were wonderful. We had parents dropping off water and food, and we had places in our area that were donating pizzas and coffee and things for our reps to have before and after, because they are coming from visiting college, high schools all day long, all across the state, or coming from out of state as well too. So it was a really great event. Our senior Naviance info sessions we did with our counseling center, we all got together and met and kind of made sure that every senior had a plan that was planning on going to college, making sure they were meeting the November 1st or 15th deadline. So we did that in September. went really well. We met right in my college and career center, which was awesome, and really kind of spearheaded kids kind of meeting me for the first time as well. For those seniors who are like, who is this guy, right? Oh, it's nice to be able to do that. And partnering with our counselors, they've been outstanding and so supportive of me as well. I hope they would say the same thing for me. So I put a grant in for one of the Swayze Fund grants, which we were able to then purchase College Guidance Network. So if you guys are on my email, we've been sending information out about that, which is professionals in the field of college admissions, financial aid, people that are higher up in their fields talking about information, and it's all taped and it's all live events, and then it's on the network for any student or staff, for people to have access, parents have access as well too, to go on and watch those at any time. They take the hour-long-ish clips and they put them down into 5-10 minute ones. If you want to watch the whole thing, you can, or little ones as well. So we're very excited, and they really are making it very easy for me in my job and a lot that we have going on. So we're excited to be able to offer them. AMFA Pathways is another program that we added this year when I came on, which is through our AMFA here in Massachusetts, and it's free for all Massachusetts residents, which is nice. And the program now, we're working with the NOC to get from 6th through 8th. One of the things we're going to be hoping for when the new position goes through with the college and career counselor at the NOC was I will be moving with them and making sure that they're sticking to the plan as well too, with using Naviance and using our databases through AMFA Pathways that we have, so that students have a curriculum and have things that they're building all the way from 6th grade, and maybe we'll work later to get it down. But from there, I think it's a good start from where we are right now as well too, just from the 9 to 12. We got to start talking about it a little bit earlier, so when they get to us, it's not this scary thing, right? We teach them math from the beginning. We need to teach them about this information earlier as well too. So my CAP, we talked a little bit about it with Teacher Ben. So my career and academic plan, this is something that's put together by Desi as well too. And we are utilizing programming and curriculum through all the things I've been talking about with Naviance, which is our system that we have at the high school for college and career readiness, and then AMFA Pathways, which again is free, so we're kind of using both of those, and then other online resources. So we're excited to work with the NOC and get this information out to the 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, and doing some programming with them as well too this spring for the first time. So one-on-one student meetings, I'm always happy to meet with students. It's actually probably the best part of my day, and going over everything that they need. I've actually met with students and done mock job interviews, or just gone over their academic plan for college and what they're thinking about. Right now I'm doing a lot of them with juniors who are excited about the process, and I'll be meeting with the whole junior class as well too soon, so I'll go over that in a second. But happy to do that with any student who just wants to sit down and go over anything college and career related that I can help them with. I've been putting things on the website as much as possible all the time, so if there's something that you're looking for and it's not on there, please let me know, I'll add it. We like to be able to get as much as we can on there, so please check that out. There's tons of information, part-time jobs, all the internship information for students and for our community partners, anybody that wants to get on there. And also have the Google Classroom, which again, anyone's able to be a part of. That's our code right there, and I'm sending stuff out daily through that, which is nice because you get an email notification now that I put something up there. So if I've usually put it on the website, I've also put it in the Google Classroom. And again, it's not just for students. I have faculty, staff, parents, anybody who wants to be in there. You do have to have an appropriate email address, but otherwise anybody is welcome to be a part of that. And if anything, I send out probably too much, but it's a good place to get information. And then I did a financial aid sheet this year because MIFA is no longer doing in-person things right now with COVID, and I think they actually like it that way. They're much more able to get out and visit people all over because they're doing things virtually. I actually like it. It's been great. So I watched a couple, and then I made the sheet, which is really a soup to nuts, like go on there and it's kind of everything you need to kind of get started. So I put that out in October. Instead of doing another night where people had to come in, they can really go there, they can watch the video, they can see the PowerPoint, they can have the links to everything that they need. And again, I added that on the website and in the college and career Google Classroom as well too. And our junior post-graduation planning, so we're utilizing time during Clipper blocks that we'll be meeting, like I said, with all the juniors to go over that. So I have them March 14th, 17th, 28th, and 31st. Well, I will just be available for any junior that wants to come down. I'm sending them out a sign-up sheet that they'll do through a Google form, and then they can come meet with me during those Clipper blocks. So I'm really excited. I think that's going to be a good way for the juniors to get to meet me who haven't yet, but also really kind of get them ready. We're going to go over their Naviance, make sure they're able to log in. We're going to do their common applications and make sure those are set up if they haven't yet. We're going to make sure we talk about how they get linked later on and go over the timeline. The biggest thing right now is to make sure and let them know that they're good, right? As long as we start this process now, they'll be ready to go into the summer, work on their essays, come back in the fall time and be seniors and have all that stuff done, and they'll take a little stress off their shoulders, hopefully, by starting now. So I'm excited to be able to do those. And then some more things that we have coming this spring. We're going to be having Northern Essex come in and do some applications days. We did those in the fall, December time, which came out really well. For those seniors who might not be ready yet or don't know, and they just want to have an application under their belt, we'll be doing that. Senior post-graduation survey, I'll be sending that out in April to all of our seniors just to kind of get a little bit more information about where they're at. I would like to start an alumni group with our current alumni going forward, because this is my first class. Not that the other ones aren't important too, but I really want to make sure we're keeping up with them and what their transition has been like as we move forward. And I know there's some things in the community with mentorship. We're going to tie that in to my survey as well as Naviance data. Where are they attending? Where did they apply? Where were they accepted? So we're making sure we're just following up with them. Internships and career fair, we're going to do that. See your options and plan your future. I've run this in the past. It's a great event so that people can get ready for later spring things that they might not have jobs yet, or the summer jobs. We'll be giving a lot of people opportunities, community partners, to come in and give them the opportunity during the school day, during the Clipper block. So I'm excited to offer that. We're going to be doing a spring virtual college fair, very basic. I'm just going to have the colleges create a Zoom link. I looked at some platforms online, and I got my feedback from my colleague friends on the admission side that it wasn't worth their payment for the programs that are out there currently, just with the way students are just not getting online as much as they were. So hopefully they've used Zoom, they're okay to use that, and they can jump on for the fair. And then career speaker days, there'll be a day 1, day 2, day 3 series. I'm opening it up to any teacher, and they'll be able to contact me with what kind of speaker they would like for their classroom, and I'll find one, or someone close to that with one of our community members. Again, having such a nice database, I can pull from those. And I also, so part of that 80, those were just people who are working on our interns. I have probably another 10 or 15 who just want to do a shadow day, or they just want to be a guest speaker. So we got lots of people in the pipeline. Junior College Planning Day and College Panel Night. It's a new event we're going to be doing as well too, in tandem with our counseling office. So we'll be working with, I want to get 2 states, 2 privates, and a community college to come in and just answer and talk about what it's like to go through that process for our juniors. Internship, capstone presentations. This is new as part of the internship program that I've implemented to kind of show off the work our interns are doing. They're doing amazing things. We want to make sure everyone's seeing that. So again, that'll be during the Clipper block one day at the end of the year, which is May 20th, when the senior's last day. And then Institution for Savings, they do a Credit for Life event that they've done for years, so I'm excited to have our juniors go to that down at Masco. And then I'll be helping and supporting through the Scholarship Awards Night. So again, since I'm new, I haven't done that, so I'm excited to help. I used to run it where I was before, and it's always such an awesome, amazing event to see how great our students are and the scholarships that they get. And then kind of our vision for the future. So we're gonna, again, work with the strategic plan and have all students with a flexible post-secondary plan for preparing them for after graduation, working with the Portrait of a Graduate vision, and assisting in the preparation of giving those skills and abilities they need to be successful in the 21st century. I think that's one of our biggest things, is making sure that whether they decide to go to college or get a career, that they're ready, and helping them through that process. Working with the MyCap plan as well, implementing that career plan through the 6th grade, and just having them get excited. I've worked with Nick, which is exciting, and he's excited about getting us out there and getting our kids to hear from colleges or go to colleges, and we're going to work all that out really to have a little bit more buzz around it, which will be fun. And again, I'm hoping to work with the new counselor if that gets put in. And then renovations of the office where I currently am as well too. We'll make it, if you've ever come visit, please do. It's just, it used to be where they showed a lot of film, and it's a dark room, so I'll get a little bit more happier in there with some lighting. I feel like I kind of make the happiness happen right now, and I'd like some sunshine to come behind me. But that's one of the things I know we're getting towards. So I'm excited to see that vision come to life as well too. So if there's any questions, please let me know. Like I said, I was going to try and keep it nice and short. But we've done a lot of things in a short amount of time. We got lots to go, as you saw with the spring list. We just set those dates, so those will be coming out very soon. I'll make sure you guys have all those dates as well too.
Ms. Walker? Yeah, sure. Thank you for the presentation. That was great, and I've heard great things about you from folks at the school who are participating in the program, and I think you're doing great things, so I'm really excited. I guess one question that has come up is, why are we working on college and career planning for kids who are who seem like they're so far away from that decision. And that's mainly, a lot of that question comes from parents where they're like, oh my God, my kids are gonna freak out if they have to start thinking about college in 6th grade, or are we pigeonholing kids too early because they have to start thinking about that direction? Maybe you could just frame how you would answer that question.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So I think, I'll say it's my comment earlier, we expect students to learn all these basic things, like English and math and history, and then all of a sudden they become juniors and we want them to know what they got to do with the rest of their life before they leave us, and then we don't really have access to them as much. So I think the preparation for the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade before they get to high school is not to say like, you got to go to college or you have to get a job. It's just to talk about it, just to have an open forum, talk about the things that are available, that they hear these words and terminologies that we have and that we utilize, that we talk about all the time, but they don't know. And for some of those parents who maybe they didn't go to college and that's not their thing, and that's fine, but it gives that opportunity for that student to hear that piece of information from both sides, right? And I think when they see teachers getting excited and talking about their opportunities that they had as well too, it'll install that a little bit more. But again, my focus is not to push one agenda or the other, it's to talk about everything. The job opportunities, not only in Newburyport, but outside that, and that global economy in that 21st century, right? So we really want to get them ready. If people are really upset about things that maybe aren't being taught, they just need to let us know, and we'll make sure that we incorporate that as well. But we're not reinventing any wheels. Like, these things are curriculums that are already built into the platforms we have, that we purchase, right? Naviance is something that we buy. So we're just utilizing the things that are in there, sprinkled in with some stuff that people have learned over the years. And hopefully this new person we have coming on that's going to be working with them will have that too, as well as I have. I mean, I started in admissions from, called the college side. So I used to go to those events, and I would go to 6th and 7th grade classrooms and play bingo and fun games with them. And I wasn't there pushing my agenda for the college, although I was representing the school. I was representing higher ed, right? And this thing that you can obtain if you decide to. Your path to that can vary, right? Community college is a great option. Why don't people utilize it enough, right? It's cheaper and things. So just talking about those pathways, I think, is huge. And we're going to have some more pathways available as well too.
Thank you.
I could just follow up. So in my previous district, we did similar work to that, but the other piece with the Naviance program that's really beneficial, especially at the middle school level, is the students, they can take different surveys within that and understand their learning preference and learning style. Yep. And then what that does, that also ties into, different career paths. So it's, kind of shows like, here's my strength, here's my comfort level at the middle school level, and then here's something I'd have to stretch for. But it has the students start thinking, if I really want to be, whatever the college or career is, doesn't even have to be college, but career focused, then it's almost ties right back to a lot of that work that we're doing, where the students really understand themselves and understand their comfort level, their strengths, but also where they would have to stretch if they really want to do something. So we found that at the middle school level, utilizing the Naviance program, that was really beneficial for kids.
Yeah, it helps them understand their intelligences and why they're good at what they are and why they have some weaknesses they can work on. Right. But I also helping them kind of figure out that path as well too. All that stuff, and that's nice when we start using it in 6th grade, it's there. Right. It doesn't go anywhere. It travels with them all the way up through their senior year, so they'll have access. Oh, I remember when I took that survey when I was in 6th grade. Right. A little bit of it's also time management, just talking about how they can start doing some of those little things, right? That's not really tied to a college or a career, but it's part of that. Right. Whether you want to get a job or go to college, you've got to have time management skills, and helping them just realize some of those terminologies and things they're going to learn are tied to both.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for your time. Please shoot me an email if you have any other questions. I'm always available.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
All right. So next up is our presentation of the Capital Improvement Program for fiscal year 2023 to 2027. Any introductions, Superintendent, or if we just bring Mr. Burkholm right up?
Yes. Well, first of all, for our existing members and some of our new members, the Capital Improvement Plan, Mr. Burkholm's done a great job. So some of those items are still on there. They've been on there for a little while. And there's some new items kind of tied to some of the work we were talking about with college and career readiness and some remodeling. The NEF and I'll have Mr. Burkholm really go through that, but you'll see some new projects as part of the capital improvement plan that we have. And then also our MSBA status that you can talk about, but unfortunately, we did not get moved on. We went to that second level. And a couple weeks ago, we found out that we'll have to resubmit, so you can probably touch base on that too. So there you go. And I just want to thank him. Hurt his back, but he was questionable on fantasy football, but he's now in. He's in the lineup tonight, so.
Ready to go, Coach.
He's ready to go, so.
Podium or at the table?
It's up, whatever you're more comfortable with.
I'm gonna
There
sit
you
next to my old friend, Mr. Cole.
There you go.
Excellent.
Here's Steve. No, don't take it.
So the capital plan was sent out in your packet, so I don't know if you all have a copy of it, or if I've brought some paper copies if anybody wants.
I'll take one.
Please. They can just send a few around that way.
I'm all set. So. Here you go.
So every year at this time, all departments across the city submit a list of capital needs to the mayor's office for consideration to be included in the citywide capital improvement plan. So this is ours, and I'll go through as quickly or slowly as we want to, talk about things as we need to. First one on the list, as Sean alluded to a little bit, is the addition and renovation of the science wing at the high school. Unfortunately, we were not invited into MSBA's program for this year. So we do need to submit a new statement of interest to be considered for the next round. That needs to be submitted by April 29th. Before we can submit that, we do need to have approval by this committee as well as city council to make that submission. It's the same statement of interest that we submitted last year, with just a few minor revisions for, the age of the roofs are 1 year older, the age of the boilers 1 year older. So it's the same document that we submitted last year with just updates for it being 1 year older. So I didn't know if we wanted to talk about approving that for the superintendent to submit it, or if you wanted me to come back for another time when you've had a chance to.
I think we have a question, Mr. Mennon.
Yeah, Steve, do we get any feedback when they say that you're not in this year as to what it is that the application?
Sean spoke.
Yes, so I did speak, as we said, I think we moved along pretty far in the process this time, where they came out, they did a site visit. The feedback we received was extremely positive. They fully understand the needs of the high school. They said it was a well-written proposal. They were just really impressed, and basically they suggested that, we resubmit what we have. Unfortunately, is every year they look at all the other districts, and there may have been some other districts that their buildings were more in need than this one at this time. But they were just really impressed with, Erin Hobbs and Andy and the site visit. They got a lot of information. So I think we were pretty close. I just think there might have been, they don't tell you who got in, but from my understanding, it seemed like there were some other districts that buildings, made it in, and we were just there right on the cusp. So, but they really complimented Steve and his writing. So he may have a future of consulting when he retires, writing those MSBA projects.
Or making judgments about who goes and who doesn't.
That's true.
Mr. Callahan?
So, Steve, mainly for the new people, we can apply, but it doesn't mean we're on the hook for anything, right? The city, we can send the application in, and if they say yes, can we still get out of it at that point?
Yeah, we're not committed.
Right. Okay.
Until.
Yeah. I know that came up probably the last 3 times we've done this for this project, but then that brings me back to I mean, certainly my first year on, but after Sean Gallagher came on, I swear there was part of the conversation where we figured out, or there was an opinion that the science lab didn't actually have to be rebuilt, but we could repurpose other space in the high school. Did I just dream that or something weird? Because I swear we talked about that, and that we could cut the cost and only do the roof part, or no?
Yeah, we might have talked about that, but it was not anything that we thought was a good idea.
Okay.
I think we did talk about it,
All right, but a while back.
it just
now,
wasn't,
right?
it, we did have a conversation about it. I do
Okay.
recall one.
Yeah, I remember. I didn't think we had all the space that we needed, but we did talk a lot about separating this off, because there's another part where we can apply to for just the roof.
So you recommend doing the whole thing in
Well,
Readiness,
the
right?
MSBA actually doesn't want to have two separate projects on the same building.
Right.
They'll do two projects in the district in different buildings. But if you're gonna do kind of a major project like an addition and renovation, they don't want to come in first and do a roof and then come back, because it's just more economical to do
Right.
everything all at once.
If we say we apply and we get the money and we find the other half of the money from you, I recently did an addition on my house, like, right at the beginning of COVID, and it was tiny and it disrupted our lives, like, you know, you can imagine. So what happens to the students during that period? I know when the high school was fixed several years ago, they were all over the place, right? They were in different buildings.
No, they were in one building in Salisbury, where the Boys and Girls Clubs are.
Okay. Well, so we don't want to do that again.
Well, I mean, but all the high school was at the middle school, and then they
Yeah.
displaced the
Right,
sixth grade.
there was classes, right,
Right,
there
right.
were split.
It will be disruptive.
Right.
I mean, you're talking about building an addition over the gym, so, you know, that's gonna have to be closed down for a period of time. It's gonna be affecting classrooms on the second and third floor that are adjacent to this space. So it's not gonna be easy, but, you know, the designers, the architects do this kind of thing all the time.
Yeah.
And they work up plans, and they help you figure out ways to use the space you've got to get through that process, and you do kind of a phased approach to it, and you find ways to work through it.
I'm sorry, say we apply and we get it, what would the time, so we apply in April, when do we find out?
So we would find out probably end of the year, beginning of next year.
All right, so say we get in and we have the money and it's awesome. When do we find out, like, the time frame that has all the details about the gym can't be used for 6 months type of stuff?
There's still, in between there and finding out that, there's a whole process with the MSBA that we have to go through. The first, they call them modules. So the first module is called the eligibility period. So basically, you're signing documents that basically say, you know, the city and the district are gonna follow all of the MSBA rules. You form a school building committee, you do, you know, they just have this whole list of things that you do to confirm your eligibility and make sure that you're serious about it at this point. And just that one module could take up to 9 months. Okay, then after that, you form the project team. You hire an owner's project manager, and then the owner's project manager helps you find an architect. And then you do a feasibility study, and then you do a schematic plan. So, you know, to answer your question about how long before we know what that's gonna look like, you know, if we get into the program, say a year from now, we start the process, then I bet we're still 2 years out before we really even have plans and are going out to bid on it.
Great, thanks.
Yes, Ms. Walker?
Thank you. So I just had a question about the numbers that are in this. You know, I know when you do capital projects, you're doing a little bit of an estimation. Are there any, what was the basis for these numbers, I guess is my short question.
MSBA does publish costs on their website that you can look at. And so I've used $500 per square feet.
Yep.
That's a little bit high for what projects are right now, but, you know, the curve is going up.
Yep.
you know, so right now, we've got this at 15 million, but, you know, I'll go on record right now saying that, given the fact that the high school, it's been 20 years since the high school was renovated and the addition was built, that number could easily climb depending on, you know, what the school building committee wants to do, what the school committee wants to do, what the mayor and city council want to support. You know, we're talking, in here, we're talking about replacing the roof on the building A portion of the high school. But by the time we get into this project, the roof on building B is, right now it's 20 years old. And, you know, by the time this project's done, you know, it's time to replace that one too. The mechanical equipment's all, you know, 20 years old at this point. So, you know, we as a group, the city, the school committee, everybody's gonna have to decide, you know, how much do we wanna hold this line? Do we wanna add other things into it, or do we wanna look at them separately? You know, there's gonna be a lot of work to decide exactly what we wanna include in this.
And then the process with the MSBA, sorry, wrong acronym, is that number set in stone, or is the process partly to define what we actually need? So we get selected as a project, but the number may change based on the modules?
The number will change.
Okay.
The feasibility study portion of that will help to define that a little bit better.
Okay. And then finally, this is maybe a question for the mayor as well. Is there, do we have a capital facilities improvement plan that sort of puts all of these projects in context and sort of figures out, other than the CIP that the city sees, are we doing anything internally that kind of helps us set priorities? Because all those things you listed, you know, if we have a roof that's going to need replacement, we should sort of be thinking about how this informs, you know.
So the answer is yes.
Okay.
This was talked a lot, especially during the campaign this past year. So my special projects manager, Kim Turner, is working on a plan. She's been working on it for about a month now, and she's got a lot of it done. So I would say in the coming weeks, we'll probably have something to share with the public. But
Good. That's helpful.
we're far along. We didn't have anything like that prior, so.
And I think some of the things that we'll talk about in the capital improvement plan might be things that we want to consider rolling into this project. Or we might not. It's, you know, there are a lot of questions to answer. Anything else about the science wing?
So just, I guess, a clarification. I think if we are being asked to approve something, I would prefer to have that request in the packet, although I wouldn't be necessarily against taking that action. I think you asked if the committee could decide on that tonight, and I don't know what you guys have discussed, but I think if we're resubmitting this application, I'd prefer to have that listed as an agenda item that we're going to consider at the next meeting potentially. That's my preference.
So the deadline for resubmission is April 29th, is that?
That's correct.
Correct?
Yeah.
And it sounds like maybe there won't be a huge amount of work to be done if we had a strong application prior. So I do think it's reasonable to delay this vote if everyone feels.
Meeting.
Yeah.
Should be on the
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think we need to vote before it goes to the city council.
But given April 29th, I
Right.
think we're fine.
Yeah.
to
Yeah, that was gonna be my
get in on our next one.
recommendation. I wanted to talk about the MSBA, and then I was looking at March 21st at our school committee to
Great,
put
I'll make
those
a
on
note.
the
That gives the
Yeah.
city council 2 meetings
Mhm.
to make a decision.
That seems reasonable. Great.
Okay. Second project.
Can I
on
just say
the-
one thing, Steve? I'm sorry. I wasn't going to. I was going to say one thing. So this isn't a question for you, though, but I just think in general, you know, because this project, I mean, again, Brian and I mentioned it. They were talking about this when we first both came on, you know, before Sean was here, this big project. And high school science has changed a lot, too, in just those number of years. So I hope as we go through this process that we're continually, so I look at this project and I wonder, is it more about space or is it more about science labs? So I hope we have that conversation about it, because I know we have space issues. But I also want us to be constantly thinking, like, where's high school science going? And, you know, how can we, you know, meet those needs going forward? Because it might not be a question of, you know, doing a huge project. It could be just technology that we're using, or what kind of curriculum that we're trying to use, or what direction we're going in. So I hope we're continuing to have those conversations, and I hope we can have them here too, so everyone else can hear what we're talking about. because this is a massive project. But I know we have space issues too. So, you're talking about a 2-story building on top, and then if you read it, we're talking about also just renovating the existing science classrooms we have. So, again, I hope we have a more complete kind of conversation about this, before we take any kind of votes about applying for it again.
That makes me think, would it be possible to invite perhaps a science teacher to come in and
we could
give us some
it-
background?
We can give it an
Well,
Would that be
overview
helpful,
of the
or?
project.
I don't know if we need to hear from a science teacher. I mean, I just, we have a wonderful assistant superintendent who,
Sure.
is in charge of
Works.
curriculum. I don't think we need really a presentation on curriculum per se. I just want to make sure that we're thinking about that as we're, trying to make these big plans. And we talked about this already, but I just wanted to say it to everybody else as well.
Yeah.
Great.
And I think as Steve was saying, our goal is to get in the system, and then there's a lot of work around, revising, as Steve said, depending on as further you go into the project, you could be adding or subtracting, you know what I mean, and really structuring it. And I agree, I think part of our process this year is working with other local districts, local throughout the state, that have already renovated their buildings, like Billerica and different high schools, and looking at their science labs, because it's constantly changing, so.
And part of the feasibility study looks at your existing spaces and how you're using them and what you need for spaces to build your programs or initiate the new programs. So a lot of that, Mr. Mayor, what you're asking gets hashed out in the feasibility study phase of the project.
Thank you. Oh, that sounds good.
Okay, so the second project on the list is a request for funds to hire a design firm or an engineering firm, probably more likely, to do kind of an existing conditions study on parts of the building. Like I mentioned, things are getting older. A lot of the mechanical systems are 20 years old. We've got some masonry issues. We get cracking in bricks. We've got some water infiltration issues in areas that we've been unable to resolve either in-house or with roofing contractors or other contractors. So we need to do some kind of forensics engineering to figure out the best way to approach those. So this is just to hire a firm to kind of look at the building as a whole and help us kind of prioritize and cost estimate some of the things that we need to take care of. Yeah.
Are we gonna go, do you want to make comments on the project by project? Is that the fiscal?
I think that makes sense.
Okay. So I promise I won't bog you down in numerous questions, but I think I just want to say on this one, I think this is a good idea. I hope we do it for all our facilities. And if there's an opportunity to do this as a value add, if there's other facilities like the NOC or other schools that need this as well, maybe thinking about, do we have a contract with one group or an engineering firm that they can also do this in other places?
Yeah, and that's the way you do it a lot of times,
Yeah.
is, you kind of have an engineering firm on retainer, so to
Right.
speak. And then as, you kind of go through things and you use them for all the different projects that you want to look at. In fact, we'll talk about a couple others when we get towards the end of this. Third thing on the list is the Knockmullen Tennis Court renovation. That is actually already in process. We received a CPA grant for $175,000, which should be enough to cover the the design fees and the construction, we are hoping. We're out to bid right now. We will actually have bids in on Thursday this week. And hopefully that will all come together and get done this summer. Number 4 is repaving of the playground at the Knock-Mullen building. If you go out and walk around that, you'll see that there is some significant cracking in throughout that area. Grass tends to grow up, weeds tends to grow up through those cracks, kind of creating little bumps, which are trip hazards for the kids as they're running around, so we're constantly out there having to weed whack, and even that doesn't really help as much as we'd like it to. So this is a request for funds to repave that. There's actually 2 options here. One is, the more thorough option is $118,000. Goes a little deeper. But we may want to consider the less costly option of about $76,000, where it's a playground, it doesn't see a lot of vehicle traffic, and that might be sufficient to, to repair that area. That might be something that we talk to Tony at the DPS and get his advice on what he would recommend for that. The next 2 requests are to replace maintenance vehicles that were purchased in 2010. The first one would be for a pickup truck with a utility body that would be used by one of our kind of our jack-of-all-trades maintenance guy who does plumbing, he does electrical, he does a little bit of everything at all the buildings. He's currently driving a van. This would be a little more efficient for him and also be able to be used as a plow in the winter time to help with the clearing of the school lots. And the second one is just a regular pickup truck that would be used by the grounds crew for hauling things from field to field, and also could be used as a plow in the wintertime. Now, getting good cost estimates for vehicles right now is not easy. I touched bases with 3 different state contract vendors. One that we've used before couldn't even give me pricing because they don't have pricing from Ford yet. With the way things are so unstable in the vehicle market right now, they're just not there. Of the other 2, one gave me a really high quote, and the other one gave me a really low quote. So this is kind of right in the middle, and hopefully somewhat accurate.
I'm just gonna, this is also for the mayor. I'm just
Can
gonna.
I guess what you're going to say? So this is part of the facilities plan too, that we're going to have an
Yeah,
absolute
well,
list of all the vehicles
Yeah, I was saying,
in the city.
if we can consider potential for electrification for some of the fleet, and it may not be that this is the best fit, but just thinking about overall whether electric vehicles fit into the plan.
Yeah, we had this conversation because the Parks and Sustainability Department just bought a pickup truck, and someone asked that same question, but I think right now they don't make the ones that would be beneficial for plowing.
Probably a longer term. Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
Number 7 is an upgrade to the building control systems for the high school and the Knock-Mullen building. The systems that we have in there are, well, 10, 12 years old at this point, maybe more at the high school. It's time to update them. The WebLink software that supports those systems right now, the software support for those is going to be getting phased out. So if we have an issue sometime in the future with that software, we're not going to be able to get support for it. The new software would make accessing the systems easier for us from any computer or any handheld device, but also increases the internet security.
Steve,
Yeah.
this one just doesn't have an anticipated funding source checked out. Would it be just pay as you go?
Interesting. Yeah, I guess I'd have to talk to Ethan about that, to see what he would recommend, but
I would think pay as you go, right? I don't know if it's like a 1-year thing, right? It's the,
yeah.
Can I, so I think this, I know you guys have an ad hoc group on the ARPA funding. I think internet security is one of those categories, so I don't know if that's one of the thoughts. I know there's a lot of competition for those funds, but.
I will say, we don't have a ton of ARPA funds that we're pulling from. I will say that there's pretty much unanimous consensus around those funds being used for infrastructure programs.
Okay.
Number 8 is for just continuing to repave walkways at the Knock-Mullen building. We have some funds right now from a previous allocation that we're going to use this summer to repave the walkway from Summit Place down to the back of the building behind the Mullen playground. That's in pretty rough shape.
is that the ramp?
It connects to the ramps where that, yeah. We have a student in a wheelchair who has a real difficult time up there, so we wanted to prioritize that for that reason. And I think the next area that I would prioritize would be the walkway coming in from Johnson Street. Part of that's going to be redone as part of the tennis court project, but this would help us do the rest of it up to the school. Next one, number 9, is a low priority, but I just want to have it on here just for, you know, future planning. Keep it in mind. Carpets throughout the high school are 20 years old at this point. There are some that have been replaced, but most of them are from when the building was renovated 20 years ago. So just something to have on there to keep in mind as a future project. Number 10 is plaster repairs in the auditorium. If you are in high school sometime and happen to be in the auditorium, look up. You'll see water stains on the ceiling. Some of the walls, there's some damage too. This relates to the roof issues that we've had there. You know, we're able to patch and kind of keep things dry inside. But I'm kind of holding on doing this project until we get the roofs replaced in full, so that we don't fix this and then have another issue.
Yeah, question here? Steve, actually, I wanted to circle back to the carpets. What's underneath the carpet? Is it cement flooring, or do you know?
It would be cement flooring. Yeah, the only place is wood floor underneath there is in the library, and that carpet's already been replaced. But yeah, it's cement under the rest of them.
Have we considered polishing the cement? Would that be a more cost-effective option? Or
sorry,
is the
if we
carpet
considered-
necessary to reduce noise? I was just curious if cement can be polished sometimes.
Hadn't really considered polished cement for it. I mean, there's some areas, when we redid the central office, for example, nobody wanted carpet in their offices, so we went with tile instead.
Right,
You know,
right.
use a vinyl tile. You know, I guess that's something to consider. Alternatives to, you know, some areas, you might still want carpet, other areas, something else might be appropriate, absolutely.
I just wanted to make sure that I understood your response to Ms. Balding, and that is that in the roof project, as we have been submitting it, the issues at the auditorium would be addressed in that project by the roof?
Yes.
The roof, okay.
Yeah. Number 11 is 2 sections of roof at the Knock-Mullen School, over the gym and over the auditorium there. Not really having any issues at this point there, but these roofs are 25, 26 years old at this point. And They're the only two sections that haven't been replaced in recent years there. They both do have solar panels on them, which makes it a little bit trickier, more labor intensive to replace. And like I said, they're not leaking right now, but I think maybe this might be a good thing to put in a statement of interest next year to get onto the MSBA's accelerated repair program for this project, just to get on their radar with that. Number 12 is energy reduction projects at the high school. We've been doing, seems like we've been doing these for years there, trying to reduce our energy usage at the high school. We've been doing lighting projects. We've done some ventilation control projects. We've replaced controls for pumps. The next project is just some more lighting. This is all funded through the Green Communities funding. Unfortunately, we did not get funded this latest round, but Molly Ettenborough, the energy manager for the city, is working on a new grant application for the next round for this one. Number 13, now we come to, another project that is kind of looking at how we're using spaces in the building. Again, these spaces were designed 20 years ago, 25 years ago. And the administration at the high school has expressed an interest in looking at what we can do to those spaces to make them more appropriate for how they're being used now. So this particular one is the art and music area. The Newburyport Education Foundation has approved a grant of $20,000 to do a feasibility study to look at these areas. And hopefully out of that, we'll get some ideas, we'll get some cost estimates for a bigger project and be able to see what we want to do in those spaces somewhere down the road. Number 14, you heard Mr. Smith talk about his space being dark and not really appropriately set up for the way that it needs to be used now. That space was formerly called the Distant Learning Lab. It's a small lecture hall with a sloped floor in it. That's not really conducive for any other use. So we also want to do a feasibility study there to see what we can do about that sloped floor, get some better lighting in there, make sure the ventilation is appropriate, and that it's really set up properly for how it's going to be used for the immediate future.
Just a comment. I can certainly testify to how dark and uncomfortable that room is, because that's where the school committee used to meet when I was first elected, in that room. Yeah. It was a lot easier to throw things at us, though. The sloping floor made it much easier.
And I think, yeah, exactly. And the idea is, I think when the school was built, many years ago, I think that was the idea, a distant learning lab that you could work with kids, in another state or throughout the country. But now, the advancement of technology, that can be done in any class or anywhere. So, repurposing that.
Everything that you can do, that room was built to do,
right,
you can do with your phone now.
Exactly.
So
I just had another question. What is behind that room that used to be the cable TV, or what did it used to be?
You saying on which side? The one that slopes up? That's the cafeteria, right?
Yeah, no, but the other one.
Right. So that's where the technology
office is in that other space.
Yeah.
So there's some consideration to finding another space for them and expanding into that area. but that's an obstacle that would have to be figured out.
Yeah, so the idea of that is it's really, that would be like a community room in the sense you'd have it, college and career readiness, with Mrs. Smith running a lot of programming out of there during the school day, but then also an opportunity for parents and families to go there at night to gather more information. So some great ideas with that space.
And the final item on this program is some kitchen equipment replacement. The Knockmolen kitchen has some very old equipment in it. Bless you.
That's impressive, though.
We could donate it to the Smithsonian when we rip it out.
I think the serving line in there is original from when the building was built in 1972. This little stove that you see in the picture might be as old as I am, I'm not sure. And then the high school, like I mentioned, the equipment in there is 20 years old. And it's starting to cost more to maintain than it's really worth. So we want to start kind of systematically replacing things. Been working with Pam Keeley, the food services director, to create a list and prioritize which items we should work on replacing first.
Steve, is it possible to capture some energy efficiency as we turn some of these things over?
Even in the kitchen, on the kitchen equipment specifically? Yeah. As I was reviewing this before I came over here today, I wondered the same thing. I've never seen any kind of rebates from National Grid for kitchen equipment, but I can certainly check with my contact there and find out. It's definitely worth checking.
Yeah, no, if we're going to spend the money, even if it doesn't get rebated, it might be worth the investment.
Yep.
If we're going to do it.
Yep.
So, yeah, great.
Yeah, and Pam's been great putting in applications every year to replace some kitchen equipment, so that's helped us as well.
Mass Save offers it for commercial kitchens. I just saw that on their website the other day.
Okay. Excellent.
Yeah.
I will
Might
look
be a
into
good
that.
funding source. Mass Save is a program in Massachusetts, a green program that offers rebates for upgrading kitchen equipment.
Steve, the middle school playground, which is a funny name for an asphalt rectangle. Even the kids call it the blacktop,
Yeah, they do call it the blacktop.
Has there been any thought of redesigning that so it's not just a big rectangle of hot pavement?
Not that I know of, but it's certainly something that could be considered. I know pickleball would like it paved.
If they want to pay for this project, they can put pickleball in there. Yeah, I was just thinking, we're not going to do it like the Green Street lot, but that was just a rectangle too, and now it's nice. Obviously, it's meant for vehicles, not for kids to run around in, but I would think there'd be some sort of idea from someone much smarter than me to make it a nice place to play outside.
Yeah, are you thinking something like a surface like we have on the Bresnahan playground?
Well, I thought about that, but then this actually gets plowed in the winter, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the Bresnahan doesn't. So,
Right.
But I don't know. That would be, that'd almost be, I'm losing my mind. Parks.
Yeah, it would be nice to have it be more natural.
Right.
Straight hoops would be good, too.
Straight hoops for Sean?
Maybe just a portion of it be hoops and
I
another
think it'd be
portion
something
be
to
natural.
think about, if
perhaps
it's
a garden.
It's just so uninviting. I'm thinking of little kids
It
running.
is.
I did that, but that was in the 70s, when no one really cared about what the playgrounds were like. So, I don't know. Just a little thought.
Okay.
I got a couple.
Any other questions?
Thorough job as usual, Mr. Bergholm.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
So can we get a vote to approve sending this to the city for?
It'll be next, it wasn't on the agenda that we might be voting on that, so we can't vote on it tonight.
This was.
Yeah, it says possible.
It does say possible.
Oh, it does.
It does?
Yes.
I think there's
What?
two votes, really.
I wanted
There's the general thing going to
to accept.
council, and then there's the MSBA.
Yeah, I think those are two separate
Okay.
things.
Right,
Yeah,
okay.
right. I'm okay with voting on this to send it
Yeah, I
to
am
council,
too.
yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
so we're just splitting it out?
Yes, the motions for
This is just
yeah,
for the
that project's still in
capital
here.
plan itself to submit to
Right.
the city.
We're approving this as the school's piece of the capital.
CIP.
Would you like to make that motion?
Sure,
Mr. Mennon?
I move that we approve the plan submitted by Mr. Bergholm for capital needs for the school to be submitted to the city.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Okay, Mr. Callahan,
All right, thanks.
bus transportation.
Yes, thank you. I'm definitely going to ask Mr. Littlehale to assist here, if you could, Phil. I'm kind of almost going over the minutes from the meeting, but not really, but just telling you what we talked about.
I've got it so we can put the pictures on.
Awesome.
Oh,
I don't know
yeah,
how to
these
connect you,
graphs
though.
would be great.
So essentially, at the FinCom meeting on February 17.
They were around.
I know, what is it? March, right? Okay. So we talked about the history of bus transportation in the city, what it costs, and we have to have the number soon for next year because we have to send out the letter to the parents and all those things. But essentially, it's been the same dollar amount for 8 years, and even with general inflation increases, it should really be $355 instead of $300. Although Mr. Littlehale does not like numbers ending in 5, so that's why the motion was to put it to $360 in the FinCom meeting on that date. And
Here we go.
once he's ready,
Yep.
he can enlighten us on that.
Buses.
So as Brian said, we did meet to talk about transportation and specifically bus fees. We did talk about other aspects of the transportation policy, but right now we're focused only on bus fees for the next school year. We're not changing anything else in terms of the transportation policy, whether in terms of eligibility or anything else, just the fee. So I put this up quickly just because we're going to talk about the different size buses in the contracts the city's had over the last 25 years. Oh, that way. There it goes. So this is basically the contract costs for the buses since, I think it's like 1997. So Salter's been doing the buses, I guess, here for about 40 years. So part of this exercise was for me to learn the history and try to get some sense of the environment that we've been working in. Now they're color coded to reflect changes in what was in each contract. So the first color you can see that we're covering 11 71 passenger buses, 4 midday kindergarten buses, 1 type A, which is a smaller bus for the Essex Aggie, and then 1 type A bus for special needs. Up until about fiscal year 05, special needs transportation was included in the regular bus bid. After that point in time, it gets split out. And then starting in 2006, I can't read it from here, I'm sorry. Okay, we dropped down to 9. Dropped down to 9 71 passenger buses. Everything else pretty much stayed the same. Then in fiscal year 12, you'll see that the costs went down because we dropped the Essex Aggie bus. We dropped, the special needs bus had been dropped earlier, and we had 10 71 passenger buses, but we dropped from 4 to 2 kindergarten buses. And that stayed the same until we hit fiscal year 16, where we went from 10 71 passenger buses to 13. The kindergarten midday stayed the same, and we still had 2 buses for the charter school and for the Knock Lake. So that shows you why you see some of those dips to get a sense as to what's been included in the contracts. I like colors, and I'm not very good at making them look pretty, but this is showing us 2 things. One, what the total cost was for the bus contracts each year, the amount that the fees collected, and what % of the overall cost of regular transportation do the fees cover? Because that was one of the questions that came up. You'll see that the peak happened in fiscal year 15, where the fees that were collected represented almost 38% of the overall cost for buses that year. And you'll see it's been on a downward trend since then, but on average, it's been around 25%. Now, obviously, this year is an outlier because of COVID, as well as last year, as well as Fiscal year 20 was closer to what the normal had been, around 23 to 25%. The question had come up, and I didn't have the slide ready when we had met, what the rider numbers are, and I'll get to those after we get through the next slide. Then the question was, what have the fees been? Fees were first instituted here, as far as I could tell, back in fiscal year 05. The goal was $180. In that year, they wanted to raise approximately about $130,000 in fees, as well as use some money from a circuit breaker to cover the cost of transportation. Then for the next years, it went from 225 to 250 to 275. During those years, it was a family cap at around 550. And also during those years, there was the ability, if you paid early, to get a $25 discount. Since 2015, that has flipped around, where if you're late, you pay 25%, you pay $25 more. So change of philosophy starting, I guess, around 2015. And again, 2015 is when the fee was raised to $300, and it's been there since 2015. Also in 2015, the family max cap was lifted, and right now, the costs are $300 for the first 2 students, then $100 for each additional student, and there is no max. And that has been what's been in place, again, since 2015. So conversation then became, should we raise the fee? And that's why we came up with $360, because we have had inflation over the last number of years, and if we go back to looking at the contract costs, you can see there's been a considerable increase in the overall cost of the the bus contracts as well. And again, the only thing that we're looking at for this upcoming year is the changing of the fee. We're not going to discuss changing of the max or anything else. We had a discussion, I believe we're going to have an ad hoc committee get together to really look at the overall transportation program for the district to see what changes may not be required so that we can get them in place for fiscal year 24. Because we need enough time to get things in place, let the parents know. Sandy in my office has been after me since January, wanting to know what the price of the buses were going to be, because typically we send that information out with the kindergarten package in January. So right now he sent it out with to be determined. So that's been the history of the costs and the fees. This we did not have at the meeting. That is not what I wanted, but that's the boring slide. Here is the breakdown of riders by category. Massachusetts law requires that all students who live more than 2 miles from their school, that's walking distance, point to point, and from kindergarten to grade 6, we are required to provide transportation. Beyond that, we are not required to provide any transportation. And the other thing is also, a bus stop can be no further than 1 mile from a student's house. So if you look at, and I'm going to tell you, some of this is some guesswork on my part, trying to figure out whether or not what category to put the students in. But the ones in blue, those are the number of students who were on buses, who were on there because they fell into grades K through 6, and they lived at least 2 miles away. The orange ones are what I call by school committee policy. It is part of the policy that students who are free or reduced lunch can also ride the bus and don't have to pay. So those are students who are on the bus that are free and reduced that do not make it in terms of grade or mileage. And then the biggest group, as you can see, are those who are not eligible at all. Those are your paying students. And you can see over time, it's been fairly consistent. Again, this year is a bit of an outlier because we are down about 150, 200 students from where we normally are in terms of students riding on the bus. But you can see that by law and by policy have been fairly consistent. It's the paying students that we're down on, and I can see that in the numbers so far this year in terms of the revenue. And then just finally the same thing, it's in terms of percentages. More than half the students that ride the buses are paying students. By law, we're around 30 to 33%. So that means 67% of the students that are on the bus are on there because by school committee policy, they're allowed to get on the bus. So it was part of the context I wanted to give everyone in terms of what are we doing with busing, what's been the history, and what does it look like. My one observation when I saw that we have 13 71 passenger buses, and I said for 1,200 students, that's an awful lot of buses for 1,200 students. If you think about it, I know you're not going to fit 71 high schoolers on a school bus, we all know that. But if you talk about 50 students, that's a lot of buses. When I was in Salem, we had 12 buses and we were transporting 2,000 kids. But we also had 3 tiers. So it depends on how many tiers, how many times your buses can run, things like that, and how well they're being utilized. Again, Salter's done a great job for us over the years. I can tell you, I've only had 2 conversations with Salter so far this year on buses, which is very different from my previous experience dealing with buses. So, Salter does a great job in terms of doing the buses. But I think as we put that committee together, we need to look at who does the committee want to have on the buses and all that stuff. But that's for the ad hoc committee to look at in terms of things that we need to look at. So again, the purpose of tonight was to say, we think that the fee needs to be raised to keep in line with inflation. Yes, I do not like numbers ending in 5s because it's just easier to do it in 10s. I count easier by 10s than I do by 5s. And so that's where we are. So again, just trying to get some history and background for everyone, for myself as well as you folks, to show where we are and how we got there. Any questions?
Yes. I have 2 questions. Are we saving money on the midday kindergarten bus since we're going to full-day kindergarten? Will that bus be eliminated?
The bus will be eliminated. We have to talk to Salter in terms of doing that, but by contract, we can do that as well.
That's great. So. And the other question I had, if we vote to raise this fee, how much of the total cost will it cover? Because I imagine you're not going to be at 100%, are you?
I don't know, because I don't know how many students may not ride now, given the increase in fees.
Right.
Again, historically, pre-COVID, we were around 25%. I would think that eventually we'll get back to that 25%. I don't think the $60 increase in the fee, since it has been raised now in 8 years, may not be that much of an impact, because for those who can't afford it, if they're free and reduced, they don't have to pay for it anyway. So, that's part of, but it's been difficult the last couple of years with that, because as you know, for the food service program, we haven't had to take any applications because no one's been paying for food service. And so we have to get back to that. We also have to be careful about using the free and reduced form, because technically you can't use the free and reduced form for anything but eligibility for food service. So we have to be careful with that.
Are there any grant funding sources to pay for the free and reduced students to take the bus?
Oh, the reimbursement rates you get back from the federal government are different depending upon how the students are categorized. Right now, we're getting rates that have been elevated because of COVID. Pretty much, we're getting full reimbursement at the full reimbursement rate for every student that's in there. So one of the things that's going to be nice this year for the food service program, in talking with Pam, is that we should have, I guess unusual for us, we should come in with a surplus for this year, which will open up some funds in terms of hopefully buying some more equipment. Pam did apply for, we got an $11,000 grant to buy, I think, an oven. I think it's for the knock, but I'm not sure. So we've got that, so do part of the replacement. But I've also talked to her about putting together her capital improvement plan for all the equipment and food service as well, because in a perfect world, your food service program should be self-sustaining. And that covers not only all your expenses, but also your capital expenses as well.
Go ahead. Oh, Ms. Walker, question?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you for the ridership numbers. That was definitely information I was missing in the packet, so it's helpful to see that. I guess you made a comment about the number of buses. Is the reason we have so many buses because of the number and the distribution of students? What drives the number of buses?
It all depends on the routing and how many tiers you can have. And by tiers, I mean, this school opens here, this school opens here, I can use the same bus. I, quite frankly, haven't got into the weeds of the contract to see where we are with that. One of the things that we did talk about was finding out whether or not we can geomap all the addresses of the students to see who falls within the eligibility and who doesn't, and then try to get a sense as where are the clusters. So to see, how we're doing that. Many districts for years used to route all their students by paper. When I went to Salem 10 years ago, my transportation director did it with index cards. He sat there through the month of August with 1,800 index cards routing the students. For years, SALT has been doing that for us, doing a great job. I just want to get into the weeds of it to see, is 13 the right number, not the right number? I got to do some more homework before I give you an honest answer on that one. But having had enough experience back in Salem, I got a pretty good sense as to how many buses you would need to do things. So, again, want to look at it. We are in year 1 of our current 3-year contract with Salter. We are allowed within the contract to reduce the number of buses. I don't think there's a limit on the number we can reduce from year to year, but I would anticipate with kindergarten not needing the midday buses, that we should at least be able to eliminate those midday buses. Whether that means we need more buses now in the morning and the afternoon, I don't know, but hopefully there would be some cost savings there.
Mr. Mennon?
Yeah, just in terms of context, one thing that I do want to note is that the fees began in 2005 because the state bailed in 2004 from paying for transportation. So suddenly we found ourselves having to institute fees, us being one of them.
So actually, thank you, Member Mennon, for bringing that up. One of my other questions was, what was the basis for the fee to begin with? Because, I mean, obviously, we're starting now with a $300 fee. Is it based on a desire to have a certain amount of revenue generated from fees? I mean, what is the reason for that fee to be set where it is?
Well, back in 2005, they had a number that they were trying to reach in terms of the budget, which was around, as I said, about 130,000. You came up with the estimated number of students who pay for it. It was actually $180. That's what they came up with.
Okay, so they were trying to close a specific gap in the budget at that time.
They were.
And then that just got carried forward over the years. They've increased it.
It's increased.
But we don't have a specific policy that says we're gonna try to generate a certain amount of revenue from transportation fees. Okay.
No, I mean, I think idealistically, we had hoped that the buses would be self-funding, but that became very clear very quickly that that wasn't going to happen.
If you want to do the quick math, look at it this way. Each bus costs us about $70,000 a year.
Yeah.
So if you look at that, and if you can fit 71 students on a bus, it's $1,000 a year to transport a student. So at $300, you know, what we're doing is basically we're filling empty seats. So anything above 0 is positive to us. But, you know, it's like selling any product. Where is that?
Yeah.
Where's the point where we could maximize the number of riders without, you know, suddenly pricing it too high that no one wants to use it?
Do you have any other questions?
I have a question, but the late start time had a thing with, we added buses for that, right? We didn't add buses for that?
No, those buses were here, because I was wondering the same thing until I looked at when they came back in, and it was in 2000.
Didn't add any transportation costs.
It was 2000, oh, I went too far. It was in 2016 when we went up to 13.
Okay.
Why, I don't know. I haven't had a chance to go back to history that much to figure that out. But, you know, it was nice. Nancy had files all the way back to 1997, so I was able to dig out all this information, because I think it really gives a good view over the last 25 years. I normally don't go back that far, but I think it was important to see it in terms of the changes here.
Phil, I was talking to Lisa Furlong earlier. Burlington has 3,500 students, and their bus is totally free. Do you have any idea how a district could do that?
It all depends on what the philosophy of the district is.
But you know where the money comes from? Oh, that's what I want to know. How are they doing that? I'm going to call the Phil of Burlington and ask them.
Well, you know, again, we're required by law to all the students who live more than 2 miles in K through 6, and that's what you start with. And then at that point, if you have seats that are available, you can make it available to other students who by law don't make it, but can make it by whatever your policy is. For example, when I was in Salem, any student who lived less than a mile could not get on a bus. Because since the law states that a child can't live more than a mile from a bus stop, the theory was, okay, if you live less than a mile, we're not going to put you on a bus. And so you had to live at least a mile away. Other than that, you know, grades 7 through 12, you live more than a mile, you could get on the bus. So it all depends upon what their philosophy is. I don't know in terms of Burlington, how many students they're required to transport versus how many they're not required to transport. I mean, we could just transport those that were required to transport and be done. Mm-hmm. But, you know, what turns out is you find out that the number of buses you need, you can't minimize the number or get the best efficiency out of the number of buses, because you've got to get kids to where they're going. And you find out you've got buses that are a third full or half full. What can we do? Well, other kids might want to ride the bus. So So we can make it available to them and charge them a price for it, because the law says we can do that.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Phil.
Thank you.
Is anybody aware of the policy about the free and reduced? Like, it's a school committee policy or a school district policy?
I think it's about the kids on free and reduced being
Getting
able
the
to.
free, yeah.
Is that state?
No.
No,
No?
I think it's just.
No.
us.
It must have been.
That
must have been
is your policy or rules. I'm not sure if it's actually in the policy, but it somehow was put in there because it is in the application, states it quite clearly on there.
Right.
And I had a long conversation with Cindy about that because I said, I'm not, because the way it reads right now, it says anyone who's free or reduced can ride on a bus. So I said, well, if a child lives 0.2 of a mile away from the school, can they ride on a bus? That's one of the things we need to look at over the summer is clarifying that and getting a little, getting cleaned up a little bit.
Even with fractions, he doesn't like a 5. He could have said 1/5. He said 2/10. Thanks, Phil.
Thank you.
So yeah, this says possible vote. I would like to do a motion to take that vote since I took it in FinCom with Ms. Hall. I just don't know if anybody else wants to talk about anything else more. We do have to send that paperwork out with a number on it 2 months ago.
I have a question. Do we have to raise it by that much this year? Could we do it incrementally to?
I chose inflation from the last time it was 300, or the first time it was
Okay.
$300. That's the number.
I'm
I
just
came up
thinking
with.
families are seeing their costs go up and perhaps we could make this over 2 years.
Madam Vice Chair, if we're going to have, I mean, I'd prefer to have a motion
have a
on the
motion on
table
the
and then
floor.
have a discussion.
I agree.
Second, I'll
Okay.
second.
Wait, should I
Wait,
say
has the motion been made though?
No, I'll make the full motion
Hang
to,
on.
I make a motion to
Yes.
raise the bus fees to $360, beginning with next school year.
I second.
Okay, discussion.
There you go.
Did Member Spalding have a chance to finish her
I
questions?
did. I just thought maybe we could stagger this and make it maybe instead of a $60 increase, make it $30 this year and $30 next year.
So
Go ahead.
So I have some concerns, and as presented right now, I'm not going to support the motion. And the concerns are in part because I think we need to be thinking about this holistically. I appreciate that transportation costs are going up. I appreciate also that the burden on families is going up in terms of not just transportation costs, but across the board. And I like that we have an ability to waive for some folks who have income challenges, but that doesn't address everybody. And my concern is if we as a committee don't have an idea of what our goal is by doing this, that we might dissuade people from using the bus. And frankly, I don't see school bus as a commuter. We're not providing it to some consumer. We're providing it as a public benefit. And there's lots of public benefits to school transportation, just as there are lots of benefits to public transportation. You offset traffic congestion around the schools. You decrease our carbon footprint. You provide an option for people to get to school for families that are challenged in a lot of ways. And frankly, school busing is much safer than having individual cars transporting kids to school. It's a lot more unsafe to have parents driving. Both the single occupancy vehicle creates issues all over the city, but when you have walkers and bikers and all those people mixing around a school zone, it becomes really problematic. So I am just trying to say that I see the broader objectives here in providing school transportation options for kids, and frankly, I think the 2-mile requirement is really arbitrary and ridiculous in Massachusetts, because I don't know many kids or families nowadays, although I know Mr. Cole walked quite a distance to school. He's told me that, and frankly,
both ways.
and which I appreciate. I think that's great. But I know that I know that a lot of families just simply a 2-mile walk or bike is just not on their radar. So I think I'd like to have a broader conversation about what our objectives are here. Are we trying to reach a certain percentage of revenue, to offset fees? That's fine, but I'd like to have a goal. And as our, business administrator mentioned, we don't really know what's going to happen if we raise fees. We might actually reduce our revenue stream because people might opt not to ride the bus. So that might backfire on us. I don't know, but it's hard to tell with COVID, right? So, I want to say I do appreciate that this is coming from, a problem-solving place, and that yes, transportation costs are going up. But I just would like to have some broader goals as a committee about why we're trying to do this. And it does seem a little bit rushed to me to just arbitrarily raise fees. I think it would be great.
I've been trying to do this for 4 years.
No, I know you have.
Never
but we
allowed to have
haven't
that
had.
conversation.
I haven't been part of that conversation,
Yeah.
and frankly, the community hasn't been part of that conversation that I know of. I mean, have we surveyed some of the users of the school buses? Would families prefer that it was a less fee, and would they use it more, and would that generate more revenue? I think understanding what families' objectives are here, and it's just not realistic to say, well, if they live within a certain radius of school, they're just going to walk instead. I mean, that's not going to happen. What's going to happen is they're going to either have to figure out how to get their kids to school, or they themselves are going to drive them. And I don't want to be pushing more people into cars, frankly. And I think that's what's potentially going to happen. So those are just some of my ideas. Obviously, I have put some thought into this. It's part of my passion in general about trying to get us, thinking more holistically about school transportation, both from a public transit standpoint, but also from a walking and biking standpoint. So those are the reasons. I just don't think I can support it tonight.
Thank you. Mayor?
I just have two questions. I'd like to hear what the conversation was like in FinCom, I guess, and I'm guessing that you came to...
It was just like that.
It was just like that? That you came to a vote and then you decided to bring this to
Yeah, and
committee?
unfortunately, Mr. Cole had to go, so he wasn't able to vote. But yeah, it was just, literally like Phil presented, it was the same
Okay.
verbatim. And then I just did the inflation percentage.
Okay,
That's where the
and
numbers
just
came
the
from.
second thing I want to mention that Phil mentioned that there's an ad hoc.
He suggested that
There
we.
will
So there's
be.
not an ad hoc yet.
There will
All right,
be.
so maybe an option two is that maybe this ad hoc should be formed and then we can answer some of these questions, and then maybe the recommendation of the ad hoc would be, do we raise prices? Do we change whatnot? It seems like we'd have a lot more information if we had that ad hoc together and looking into it.
I have a question, Phil. Do we have a firm deadline in terms of setting the fee to get that information out to families?
Yeah, about 2 months ago. That's the
Got it,
problem.
okay.
That's why when we had the discussion in FinCom, we talked about lots of other things, but because historically here, we've gotten that information out in January, and I'm used to
Gotcha.
getting it out much later in the school year. The only thing that we really could do for next year was to look at the fee. That's why we also said, well, maybe we need to put a committee or some people together to look at all these other issues to figure out for fiscal year '24, what do we want to do?
Right, so that presents a challenge in terms of using an ad hoc to discuss this further, right?
Well, no, if you did that, then we'd be saying we'd be leaving the price alone this year and let the ad hoc form and then do the.
For another year.
Yes.
Mr. Mennon?
This may be a question for the mayor or maybe even the superintendent if you were here then. I know that we've had several conversations about discussing with public transportation that they might get some more buses that come through here that would help some of this bus. I don't know how that's been followed up on. I remember it was a couple of years ago.
Yeah, no, I remember that. Since I've been in office, I've had some conversations, not around the schools for that, but they're looking, again, they just went to free rides the other day. They are looking at Newburyport, they are considering changing some, but they're also very willing to work with us, so if that's something we wanted to pursue, I think they would absolutely listen.
We have the one loop route too, right? That they do. And VRTA has the one.
They do. They're looking, we only have 2 buses now that come through Newburyport, and one of the routes are about to change. It doesn't have high ridership. And then there's another one that's a loop that they're still going to keep, but I think they're willing to work with us to try to come up with the best way for it to be utilized around the city. Because I heard that a lot this past year as well, that there are definitely parts of town that would more utilize, public transportation if we could set it up so it would be, more user-friendly for them.
I think that's how Melrose gets away with not having bus service at all, because they have 3 MBTA routes in the city, basically serving every corner of that town. The distance is never more than a mile to a
Right.
working T-bus. Thank you, Ms. Walker. We'll agree to disagree on some things, but the one thing that we didn't bring up is that all the kindergarten parents for next year are about to save $4,000. So if the younger kids are the most, the group that uses the bus the most, I would think that the $60 charge would not be as big of a hit since they're not paying for school for the first time ever. But if people want to table the vote because of getting the ad hoc thing together, I'm fine with that.
You want to say something?
Yeah, the only other thing I would just offer is, there also might be options like, we think of different categories of people that we're going to charge full price to, like, for example, the older students. I did a quick scan. I think we need to do a little deeper dive, but there are communities that give free all the way up through 3rd grade, for example. And then beyond that, it's a sliding scale of fees like what we do. So I just think there might be some other ways. I'm not ruling out the possibility of fees and maybe increasing fees for certain populations, but I'd like to have a clear idea of what our objectives are, that's all, and that we're gonna actually reach them, because God forbid we raise the fees and then we don't meet our revenue target at all, that's all. That's what I'm just trying to.
I like the idea of the sliding thing for because I think we know that the high school afternoon buses are almost empty most of the time because they're doing other things. And you can't sell that seat again, so it's not usable. So anyway, thanks. Steve, were you gonna say something?
I wanted to, I guess, dovetail onto some of the things that Ms. Spalding said and related to some past data here. I think people can note that in FY15, when the fee was raised $25, you had your highest amount of revenue come in the last, 15 years or so of history, which to me is significant. And then it stabilized for a year, and then it slowly dropped off. And again, the last 2 years of COVID, it's dropped off some more. So, the ridership issue concerns me, because if you are going to raise the fee, you want to at least try to maintain, if not, improve your ridership if you are, intending to raise revenue. But I guess what concerns me here is with a large one-time rise of 1 year increase, I should say, I think that may make people reluctant to, sign their kids up for the bus. I like what Ms. Spalding said about maybe some type of phased-in implementation. Maybe if we did the first year, say for $30, saw what the results were there, and then if ridership goes up, maybe we, talk about this again next year and do another $30 raise. But I also like what Ms. Walker said about, what are our goals here? If I recall, one time when the fees were raised, there was a lot of internet traffic about carpooling, and you had a lot of parents carpooling kids, which I think is a great idea. I'd rather see that than lines of cars on Low Street or North Atkinson Street, just sitting there and spewing out emissions. Anyway, so, I think it's worth some more discussion, but I wouldn't have a problem supporting a 2-year phase-in, or at least a 1 year phase-in of, say, a $30 increase, and then see what those results provide.
Mr. Mennon?
Another option is kind of adapting that, and that is to vote for a $30 increase now, and then have the ad hoc committee report out. We may be eliminating fees, we may be having to add more, but let an ad hoc committee do its work. At the same time, we're helping offset some of our own costs here by increasing half of what was recommended.
So can I comment on that?
Yes.
So I think the danger of that is having it backfire in terms of families just being, just throwing up their hands saying, forget it, I'm not gonna. You know, if we did that, I think it would have to be a strong message that it's a one-time fee increase, and I don't know how we message that, and then, you know, is it because, and it's because of transportation costs increasing, you know, I think we'd have to message that correctly, because then if we then come back the next year and say, well, we're actually gonna reduce it, it would be hard, I think it would be a hard message to give to families,
I don't think we should
think
ever
it's
say,
creative.
I'm sorry, go, I'm sorry.
I think it's a creative idea. It's just, I think it would be hard to communicate.
I don't think we should ever say it's anything's a one-time fee, though. I mean,
Right.
there's, you know, kids pay to play sports, and all those things go up. I don't know, do we table it till ad hoc, or do we do versus idea? I thought was, you know, good, I mean.
I think you've got two options
It's
here.
like 82 cents each way to take the bus, basically door to door in the city of Newburyport. You know, it's if you have 3 kids, that's a giant chunk of change due all in one day. Can we do things where they don't have to do that?
Yeah, I mean,
You can do payment plans so we're not dropping $700 on the first day of school, basically. Okay.
That seems another thing that would be for ad hoc to decide.
Yeah.
But, Mr. Mennon?
I would like to ask the superintendent, if we don't make a change, what is the impact on the budget you're putting together? Does it have an impact?
I just think I think you can see the cost of transportation is rising for the district. I would recommend, you know, we'll follow the lead of the school committee. I mean, if it wants to be tabled for this year and to really do the ad hoc I'll do a lot more research on this and what the impact would be. I think we could support that. If you're looking at a small incremental increase this year, if it's, you know, $25 to $30.
Not 25, can't do 5s.
You can't do 5s. So I think we're very flexible, I think, on the direction of the school committee.
I have another question.
Yes.
For Phil, is there a kicker in the contract or something that adjusts our rate if gas goes up to, say, $4 a gallon or $5 a
I do
gallon?
not recall seeing any fuel adjustment clause in the contract. But I will double check on that and get back to you all.
You mean with the bus company? Is that-
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a fairly material change, so.
Mr. Callahan?
Yes.
The original motion was for $360 for what, FY23 year?
Correct.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
If we can either table it, or I'm willing to withdraw my second if the motion gets withdrawn.
I don't know. It's me and Juliet and Bruce, basically, right? So I don't know what anybody else really thinks. Do you guys want to table it?
Well, I
until
think
this, which means nothing happens. This, you
if we
know,
want to amend it to a $30 increase, I think more people would be comfortable with that, and then we could do a roll call vote. I think that's one option. The other option would be to table it. People
Does
have
it
thoughts?
have to be tabled in the manner that it's not for this year? Like, if we did an ad hoc committee, how long do you think that would take?
Well,
Far
Phil
longer
was
than we
saying we
need.
needed to make these change like 2 months ago. So I
Okay.
think if we table it, then we are not increasing it for the coming year. That's my understanding.
Okay.
He's
I
nodding.
would agree with that.
Yep.
The purpose of the ad hoc is to really dive into all these other issues and report back to the committee in early fall so that we can have your decisions made by December, so the next January, we're ready to roll out in terms of transportation.
okay, that's fine. I'm fine with doing that. What's the procedure? Table the motion to table the motion, or withdraw the motion.
Yeah, you already withdrew a second.
You do a second?
Yeah, I'll
Okay.
withdraw my second.
Okay. Does that make sense, Ms. Kennedy? Withdrawing the motion to vote?
And that, in effect, that means that the rate is unchanged for the next year.
Correct. But I would like to see that ad hoc formed like next week.
Yeah,
We'll get
so
on it.
Phil, you can take that to the bank, but don't expect to have a deposit with that.
I want to thank Member Callahan for volunteering to lead the ad hoc committee.
Juliet wants to do it. She did all the research.
Woo, Woo, all right. Well, look at this. We're on to subcommittee updates, starting with Mr. Callahan for finance.
Nothing more to add.
Yes,
for
okay,
finance.
fair enough. Okay, Ms. Spalding, policy.
Policy will be meeting next Monday, and we will be discussing several policies that I am going to put out on the agenda on Wednesday. We'll post that publicly.
Great, sounds great, thank you. And Mr. Mennon?
Joint Ed meets tomorrow.
All right. Well, that was easy. Ms. Ippolito, you've been very patient. So this is our Assistant Superintendent's report.
Yes.
Hi, everybody. Great to see you. All right. So I was just going to report on the February Math Academy. We received the opportunity to do the Math Academy through a state competitive grant, which we were funded $129,000. So we're very excited about that. The Math Academy will run both February break as well as April break. We were, I'll go really quickly. We were able to have applications from 13 teachers, in which we selected 9 teachers to participate. 2 music teachers, 3 nurses. We had a nurse each day to support, and 4 instructional assistants. So proud of Newburyport again, because we had the opposite problem of most districts where they didn't have enough staff to run theirs, and we had plenty of amazing staff members to join us. And we're particularly proud that we ended up having 73 students come for the 3 days, which were Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. You had the option of doing it over 4 days, the Math Academy, but the requirement of the grant was 20 hours of math, and we decided, I decided that we were going to do it over 3 days so that families could have a long weekend on either end. Another requirement of the grant was that you needed to look at data and focus on standards that historically were a little bit troublesome, maybe, or a little less successful. And so, for example, in 3rd grade, we looked at fractions over a period of time historically. That's where we tend to struggle on our MCAS testing. And so the teachers were able to be really flexible and working within specific, not all the fraction standards, because there are a lot, but specific fraction standards. And they did it through fun math workshop models, which mean that you break the kids into smaller groups and they get kind of individualized activities, as well as whole group instruction. The reason that we brought on 2 music teachers is because we also had kind of like a specialist, but instead of like regular music class, it was math and music. The kids really loved that. And we also had a STEM class for all of our students, and this was open to students grades 3 through 10. Let's see, what else? I want to also thank Pam Keeley and the food service department, because they provided breakfast every single morning to the students, and the students loved that. I got a lot of positive responses from parents around the camp saying, I've never had my child say they want to go to school to learn more about math, so we were proud with that. We did learn a couple lessons as well. So for the April camp, I sent home actual physical letters with permission forms at the bottom. And then the response back wasn't as great as we wanted, because I think things got lost in translation through the different schools or what have you. So we're going to do everything through a Google form for April. So it's nice and clean, and we know that it's out there. Yes. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I'm not supposed to be the one saying yes. Sorry.
Yeah, no. Was a one-time competitive grant, or is this something that's available annually from the state?
It's a one-time as of right now, as far as I know, but I'm hoping to continue.
Kind of the question that I was leading to is, if this thing is really working, is this something we want to replicate, even if we have to bear the costs?
Yes, so I actually met with the Swayze Executive Committee today about funding for summer. More literacy, but EL STEM camp as well. So we're going to be looking at those types of things because it was so successful that we'd like to continue with it. And we also, originally in the grant, I put in for initiatives, and then they told me you can't give initiatives to the kids. And then, I don't know, in the 11th hour, the state emailed me and said, hey, congratulations, Lisa Marie. We found this group who want to sponsor you. And then all of a sudden this box came, and they had sent me 57 $25 gift cards to Target for the kids. So I'm in the process of mailing those out to the students to congratulate them on their hard work during the break, and we'll have some left over for the April break. But it was really fun. We had a good time.
Superintendent?
Yes, and the preliminary data after that.
Oh, yes,
That you were so
Yes.
excited. I mean, not only was it a great experience for the families, but the math scores from that Tuesday to Thursday.
Yes, it was pretty incredible. So we did pre-testing and post-testing on the specific standards. And Superintendent Gallagher saw me because the data comes in, I can't keep it to myself, so I have to go in his office and let him know. But we saw, I would say, 90% of the students made like tremendous growth in the specific standards we were working on. So we'll be looking at those trends in our upcoming MCAS testing and our end of the year testing, and just kind of like seeing how everything's playing out. So really excited.
So the program in April, would that be like a part 2 for the same cohort, or would you be working with a new cohort of kids?
It's going to be a combination of both.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah. And so we have lots of staff already saying to me, hey, put my name on the list. I would love to work. And they receive a nice stipend as well, which they deserve. So I'm happy that we have that opportunity for our staff. And yeah, it just felt like a really collaborative effort by everyone involved. And in the spring, Allie Burns, who's our math coach down at the Brez, is doing her PAL task for her administrative license. So she's kind of shadowing me for the April event. So that'll be great to have another pair of hands on board. So
Great.
It was really
Do
good.
we have any other questions? Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
Superintendent's report.
All right. Just a few updates here, and Steve mentioned the school nutrition equipment assistant grant, so I just want to thank Pam Keeley for applying for this nutrition equipment grant on behalf of the district. Just so you know, so there was allocated about $500,000 that the state had, and then there was grant requests, I think throughout all the Commonwealth was $2.5 million. But Newburyport, because of the way PM Keeley's wrote the grant and advocated for Newburyport schools, we received $10,000 to $12,000 out of that grant. And so we're going to be purchasing a new stove at the high school. And then Miss Keeley works behind the scenes. Maybe a lot of people don't know, but she's been writing grants for the district and some other grants that we've received in the past couple of years. We got two grants that we received, and we bought 2 new ovens at the Knock, and then 2 new steamers at the Bresnahan, which is good, especially when I buy some oysters and stuff. We steam them in the summer.
Steamers.
No, but I just, as we all know, Pam Keeley's just, she goes above and beyond and just does so much. So that will also help, with our defraying some of the costs for the equipment because of having Pam there. Hiring update, we did send the announcement out to our school community regarding the principal searches. And as you know, we went through a finalist round. They interviewed with 5 different panels throughout, and all of the candidates, the finalists, went to the district for the day, did interviews with school staff, students, and parents. We did extensive background checks. I think it was a very comprehensive process, but from the initial interviewing process throughout the entire process, we did have 2 of our own rise to the top throughout that in every interview. And we were pleased to share that Ms. Sokolowski has accepted the position of principal for the Francis Bresnahan School, and we're excited to welcome her as part of our permanent member of our administrative team as the principal. And also we were pleased to announce Mr. Marco has been named the Knock Middle School principal and we look forward to him being a permanent member of our leadership team and his continued leadership at the NOC. We're really excited to have our colleagues move into these new roles, and I just think it's gonna make our district even stronger with the consistency that the district has had over the past couple of years with COVID. So we're excited that, and I just want to thank all of the stakeholders and the people that participated in the process. Newburyport's a great community. We got a lot of positive feedback, and I just want to thank everyone that contributed, and then also the parents that assisted with the surveys and all of that. So we thank everybody for that. COVID update. So as you all know, we're not wearing masks today. I'm superstitious, so we still have our medical advisory meeting scheduled on the Wednesdays. I don't want to cancel those because, so Lauren and I will be meeting on a weekly basis, and if we feel there are trends or something that we need to bring everyone back to that meeting, we will do so. For non-mask being optional or encouraged, we've had no negative feedback on that. Students and staff seem to be doing very well. It's great to see our staff and our students, the ones that choose not to wear the mask, seeing their faces and the smiles again. And then also we are supporting students that are continuing to wear their masks for various reasons. Last week we sponsored a vaccination clinic. It was a small turnout, about 35 people that we had come out, which was great. But we're probably not going to do another clinic until the vaccine's available for the children under 5, and then we'll do another one for that. And then if there's a 4th booster recommendation, we'll also do another clinic for that. Testing program's still going strong. We're around 65% of the students, and most of the staff are participating throughout the district. And I think that's also very beneficial, having those testing kits. All right, next is part of the college and career readiness and our place-based education and a lot of that work. We had a custom house museum visit, which I also put in the Friday memo, but just to let the public know, Assistant Superintendent and I visited the custom house. We had a tour of the museum. Nita Lamborghini and other board members were very interested in partnering with the Newburyport Public Schools. And one of their primary efforts is to strengthen our educational programming, their educational programming, and our vision of place-based education, and then kind of rekindle that. So we have a lot of great ideas, a lot of great discussions on how we can tie that not only into the place-based at the middle school and elementary, but also some internship program opportunities for our students. Assistant Ippolito tied all our discussions back to, obviously, always back to the standards, and address how the partnership could continue with our vision of the Portrait of a Graduate and our strategic plan. And then as the students mentioned earlier, we had a great day. Mayor Reardon and Sarah Hall and Assistant Ippolito and I had the opportunity to speak and attend the environmental stewardship block. At Clipper Block, students had the opportunity to learn about environmental stewardship along with different projects happening throughout the community. And it was also great to bring in some of our environmental leaders across the city and then share their leadership opportunities, with the students. It just also is another great opportunity for our community, working with the schools and how we've really been partnering together. And I think, my philosophy, especially today's day and age with education, is takes a village for all of us to work with kids, and the strong partnerships is just going to benefit everybody, from the schools to the parents to the students, business world, and our community. So it was a great way to end the week before the vacation. So there you go.
Excellent. All right, do we have any new business?
I have one thing, but if no one has new business, then I like something for the end. So if someone else has something to say, that's fine.
Anyone want to jump in?
I I don't have
Yes.
new business, but I do have, maybe it's similar to the mayor. I just wanted to share that the Safe Routes to School program has a recognition for school crossing guards. And maybe I'll send it to you. You can
That'd be great.
nominate a school crossing guard, and during the month of February, I think it's the month of March, they recognize them. And it is school, it actually is Crossing Guard Appreciation Month.
Oh, nice.
That would be great. Maybe at our March 21st
Yeah.
meeting.
Okay.
That'd be
And
awesome.
then also, there's a student yard sign design contest that the Safe Routes to School program does, also in anticipation of us ramping up for, walking, biking season again. And they invite kids to design a yard sign along the lines of be aware, people are walking and biking to school. So I'll send the information to you,
Awesome.
Superintendent. You guys
Thank
can do
you.
what you want with it.
Thank you so much.
Nice.
No, that's great.
Okay.
So I just want to mention two things. One, I wanted to just highlight the art show that's going on in here, and it's also on the second floor too. This will be here all month, so if you want to come down to the Senior Community Center and check out the artwork from students all across the district, you can come down and do that. It's pretty cool. And the last thing, I just got some sad news while we were at the meeting, but a longtime Newport High School educator, Paul Coleman, died today. He was a teacher, coach over 30 years at Newport, super guy. He actually came with legendary coach Jim Stalin years ago, science teacher, longtime assistant coach, was the head football coach for a while, and also was assistant coach in a lot of different sports for, again, over 30 years. And just until probably a week ago, he was still taking the money at the boys and girls basketball games up at the high school. So just sad news. Super family. Again, my thoughts and prayers go out to Jan, his wife, and the rest of his family. And just, we're thinking of them. And just thank you to the Coleman family for all they've done for Newport over the last 30 plus years. And that's it.
Okay, then, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.